Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're plunging headfirst into a story that's reshaping a huge global industry, automotive. For, well, generations, European engineering has been the gold standard, hasn't it? A symbol of quality, innovation. But now, it's facing maybe its biggest shakeup ever, all driven by the electric vehicle revolution. Okay, so let's really get into this. We're seeing this intense, high-stakes competition, mainly from Chinese EV makers. And Europe's traditional giants, they're scrambling, not just to keep up, but maybe even to redefine the whole game. So what does this mean for you? For the car you might drive next, its quality, its price. And what about the jobs, the economies tied to this massive industry? It feels like a really critical moment.
Absolutely. And today we're going to dive into the reports and articles, really pull out the key insights. And what's becoming clear, maybe surprisingly so, is that Chinese EVs aren't just cheaper. That's part of it, sure. But often they're faster to market, packed with advanced tech, and especially strong on software. That's a big one.
Right. That speed and tech advantage really brings us to the scale of the challenge.
Yeah.
These aren't niche players anymore. Chinese brands are expanding fast into Europe, offering cars that are, well, often cheaper, yes, but also quicker to launch and, frankly, sometimes more advanced straight out of the box. I mean, think about it, a new model, concept to showroom, sometimes in less than half the time of a legacy European maker.
Exactly.
Take Zeekr, for instance. That's the premium EV brand from Geely, the Chinese conglomerate. They're already selling in several European countries. Plans for the UK within 2 years. And their edge, highly automated factories, deep vertical integration, they control a lot of their own supply chain.
Right. Batteries, software, proprietary tech. It gives them incredible agility.
That vertical integration point seems key.
It's crucial. When we say Zeekr controls everything from the battery cells to the infotainment software, well, that's not just jargon. It means they can innovate fast, adapt to what the market wants, and importantly, cut costs pretty dramatically.
Compared to European makers.
Well, yeah. Legacy European car makers often rely on these huge, complex networks of external suppliers. Each supplier has its own timeline, its own profit margin, its own development cycle. So every change, every innovation, it's like a multi-year negotiation sometimes.
So it's not just about speed, it's a whole different way of operating.
Precisely. It's a fundamental difference in how you create and capture value in today's auto world. They're built for this new era.
It really does sound like comparing a nimble tech startup to a huge established industrial player.
That's a good way to put it. Professor Peter Wells from Cardiff University's Center for Automotive Industry Research, he says it quite plainly in one source. Chinese firms are nimble, fast, and technologically advanced, especially in software where European firms have struggled.
And the clock is ticking, right?
Oh, definitely. You've got immense regulatory pressure. Remember, all new cars sold in the UK and EU have to be zero emission by 2035, with tough interim targets before then. It's not just a goal, it's the law.
So given that deadline, can Europe actually catch up? Is there enough time?
Well, some analysts are sounding pretty serious warnings. You see reports suggesting European manufacturers might be a decade behind China.
A decade?
Yeah, not just in production capacity, but critically in controlling the supply chain for essential battery minerals, the lifeblood of EVs.
Wow. Think about that, a 10-year gap.
Yeah.
You're not just catching up, you're trying to leapfrog while the other guy keeps running.
Exactly. And it means Europe could end up reliant on others for the basic building blocks of its future car industry.
And there's another mismatch, isn't there, in the types of cars being offered?
That's right. It's clear from the sources, Chinese EV makers have been really strategic, focusing on compact, efficient, affordable cars.
Yeah.
Think about NIO's Firefly brand coming soon. That's the target market.
Whereas European brands?
They've mostly pushed larger, more expensive SUVs and premium models, driven by, existing strengths and higher profit margins on those vehicles.
So it's not just different products, it's a different market philosophy almost.
It is. And the risk. By focusing so heavily on the premium end, European brands could become niche players. They might just cede the huge volume market, the affordable, compact EVs to Chinese rivals.
Which means for you, the listener.
It directly impacts the types of EVs available to you and definitely their price. If you want an affordable city EV in the future, will your main choices be Chinese brands? That's a real long-term danger for European automakers. They could lose the next generation of buyers.
That does sound worrying. So given that, it's maybe not surprising that we're hearing so much about tariffs, protectionism. The EU's already slapped tariffs of up to, 45% on some Chinese EV imports. But it's causing a massive split, isn't it? Germany's worried,
Hmm.
really worried about retaliation against its exports to China, luxury cars, machinery, you name it.
Right, billions at stake.
But then you have France and Italy pushing for stronger barriers, wanting to
Yeah.
protect their own auto industries and jobs. It's a real political balancing act
It
here.
is, and it's not static. Chinese firms aren't just sitting back.
No, they're already looking for ways around it, right? Shifting production, maybe?
Exactly. Looking at places like Turkey or even setting up assembly within the EU to get inside the tariff wall, it's a constant strategic game.
So do tariffs actually work long term?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Andy Palmer, the former Aston Martin CEO, he had this great analogy in one source. He said, tariffs insulate the baby so the baby never learns to walk.
Meaning they reduce the pressure to compete.
Exactly. He sees them as a short-term fix that could actually leave Europe further behind because it doesn't force the necessary innovation and efficiency gains.
So what is alternative?
Localization. He argues the price of entry for Chinese brands should be localization, build here, employ here, invest here.
Like Nissan did in the UK.
Precisely. He points to Nissan's Sunderland plant as proof that local manufacturing can build a strong, lasting automotive ecosystem. And he argues the UK, as Europe's second biggest EV market, has clout. It could use that leverage to attract Chinese investments, skills, jobs, instead of just importing cars.
That's a different approach. Focusing on building capacity here rather than just blocking import.
Yeah, it frames it as a long-term industrial strategy versus short-term protection.
So it's not simple. It reflects these really deep differences in national interests and economic philosophies across Europe.
Absolutely. It's that classic debate, free trade benefits versus strategic protection for key industries. And for you, listening, you have to wonder, how will tariffs hit your wallet? Will fewer cheap imports mean European cars get better or just more expensive because there's less pressure?
And the ripple effects. Trade wars. Manufacturing moving.
Exactly. Real consequences for jobs, for consumer choice. It's incredibly complex.
Okay, so while the politicians debate tariffs, the companies themselves aren't just waiting around. And speaking of bold moves, let's look at Stellantis. You know, the group behind Jeep, Fiat, Peugeot, Vauxhall. A real powerhouse. Their CEO, Carlos Tavares, he's been really outspoken, actually criticizing the EU tariffs.
Right. He's taken a strong stance.
He basically said Stellantis wants to fight to stay competitive, not hide behind tariffs. He declared, on electric, we are ready, there's no turning back.
Sull'elettrico siamo pronti, non si può tornare indietro, as he said it.
And he's backing it up with a focus on affordability, aiming for EVs around the 25,000 mark. We saw the 20,000 EC3 recently, targeting that mass market.
Yeah, that's a clear signal.
But it's tough going, right? They just reported a big net loss, shipments down globally. North America hit especially hard by tariffs and other issues.
Yeah, a 2.3 billion net loss, global shipments down 6%, North America down 25%. It really shows how difficult this transition is, even for a giant like Stellantis.
So what's their strategy then, if not just relying on protection?
Well, it's fascinating, actually. It's multi-pronged and quite offensive, you could say. They're not just defending, they're attacking the problem. First big thing, strategic alliances. Instead of just building walls, they're building bridges, particularly with China. They took a 21% stake in Leapmotor, a Chinese EV maker. And crucially, they formed a joint venture. Stellantis owns 51% to sell and even manufacture Leapmotor cars outside China.
So using Chinese tech and speed.
Exactly. They plan to export 2 Leapmotor EV models from China by the end of this year. It gives them instant access to proven, cost-effective EV tech. They might struggle to develop that quickly themselves.
All right. What else?
Then there's the huge battery play, a massive joint venture with CATL, the Chinese battery behemoth.
Ah, yes, the Zaragoza plant.
Right. Investing up to $4.1 billion in a big lithium iron phosphate LFP battery plant in Spain. Production targeted for late 2026, aiming for up to 50 gigawatt capacity. That's enormous.
And LFP batteries.
Yeah.
They're the lower cost ones, right?
Generally, yes.
Yeah.
LFP offers great safety, long life, and lower cost. Perfect for more affordable mass-market EVs. But Stellantis is using a dual chemistry strategy. They'll also use NMC nickel manganese cobalt, which gives higher energy density for longer range or performance models. This flexibility is key.
And building it in Europe helps with
Supply chain security, costs. It's a major move towards localizing the most critical EV component.
Okay, so big external partnerships. What about inside Stellantis? transforming their own brands.
Absolutely. Their Dare Forward 2030 plan is ambitious. They're targeting 75 battery electric models, aiming for 100% BEV sales in Europe by 2030 and 50% in the US for cars and light trucks.
How are they managing that across so many different brands?
Through their scalable STLA platforms, small, medium, large, and frame. Think of them like modular building blocks. They can build everything from small city cars to big trucks using these common architectures. It streamlines development, cuts costs, speeds everything up.
Makes sense. And cost cutting is still a focus.
Oh, definitely. There's a $4 billion turnaround plan. It includes shifting production, like building the Jeep Grand Cherokee fully in the U.S. to avoid tariffs, but also tough decisions. Plant closures, aggressive cost cutting. Antonio Filosa, the CEO running things, already slashed North American inventory by 40%.
So they're really trying to adapt proactively, not just react.
Exactly. Making hard choices, investing heavily, forming these perhaps unexpected alliances. It's a bold gamble to secure their future. And for you, the listener, these big strategic moves, these battery investments, they'll directly shape the kinds of cars and technologies you see on the road.
So bring this all together. It's clear the European car industry is in a massive race for innovation, market share, maybe even survival. We've seen these contrasting approaches, the whole debate around tariffs versus Stellantis going for partnerships and localization. It's high stakes.
It really is, and it's worth noting Al Bedwell from Global Data's perspective. He reckons Chinese brands might take about 15% of Europe's electric market by the mid-2030s. He sees that as significant but not an existential threat. He points out European brands still have strengths. Brand loyalty, dealer networks, after-sales service, things that matter to buyers.
But there's still headwinds for Europe.
Definitely. Felipe Munoz, another analyst, highlights that Europe's high costs and complex rules are a handicap. They were designed, as he puts it, when China wasn't a player.
So Europe needs to adapt its own environment.
Munoz argues yes. Lower taxes, less red tape, more incentives for R&D to really foster competition.
Which brings us back to Andy Palmer's warning.
Yes, that powerful call to action. We have a once-in-a-generation chance to reset Europe's automotive industry. He says if Europe acts wisely and quickly, it can still lead in EVs. But if we rely on tariffs and delay tough decisions, we'll face terminal decline. The urgency is palpable.
The stark choice.
It is. So the final thought for you listening, as you think about your future car, how much will this global chess game, government policies, trade deals, huge corporate partnerships actually shape what's available? The price, the features, even whether certain cars are sold here at all. Will Europe's famous brands reinvent themselves fast enough to really lead this electric future? Or does that baby, as Palmer put it, need to learn to walk much, much faster to even keep up? Something to really think about.